Here I am, climbing up, feeling great, getting love. Here I go, risk it all, be worth it now, and that's for sure. Watch me as a Rocketeer.
Alright, episode 34 of Fight Talk Down Under is brought to you by CMBT Nutrition. Go to cmbt.com.au for all your protein powder, protein bars, pre-workout, all that good stuff. Of course, CMBT are big supporters of Aussie MMA, so make sure you head over to cmbt.com.au and give them some love. Use the promo code Justin for 10% off at the checkout. We're also brought to you by Nutcare. The fact is that 83% of penile injuries involve a razor. But guys, it doesn't have to be this way. Bare Nuts hair removal cream is better and much easier than shaving and less painful and time consuming than waxing. So go to nutcare.com.au, use the promo code FIGHTNEWS for 10% off at the checkout. That's nutcare.com.au, promo code FIGHTNEWS. Now, welcome everyone, we're back. We had another week off last week. It's been tough to sort of bring things together, but we're here. I'm Dan Meehan from Fight News Australia, and of course, we've got Hungry Lockjaw this week. He's cutting weight, but getting ready to fight Diego Pereira for the vacant Eternal featherweight title this weekend, December the 2nd. Lockjaw, how are you, mate?
Yeah, we're getting there. Same old. We're in fight week, weight cut, all that sort of stuff, but yeah, we're getting through now. We're fighting Friday night, so weigh-ins are Thursday. So we're on the home stretch now. Home stretch, do the weight cut, and then rehydrate, refuel, all that critical sort of stuff. I just eat, but they tell me there's a science behind it. I just consume stuff and feel good, and then get in there and fuck someone up for some money. Yeah,
that's it. Just do what you're told. In the meantime.
Yeah, pretty much. That's my job, is just to listen in those avenues, and then, when it comes time for me to walk in the cage, that's when I get to do my thing.
Yeah, you take the reins, and there you go. Just get after that belt.
Yeah, it's wild that it's like finally happening now after obviously being set back with an injury and all that sort of shit. But now it's happening. Now we're here, so looking to close out the year in a big way.
Absolutely, and yeah, we're here to talk all about it. Eternal 72 is going to be sort of the crux of this episode. We'll cover off some other bits and bobs from the local scene and abroad towards the back end. But of course, yeah, Eternal 72 is what we're here to talk about. So we'll go through the card. We'll sort of chat about some of these matchups and see how we go. But of course, we'll go through the main card. Like the opening bout of the main card is Tim Schultz versus Liam Steven. It's kind of a fun matchup on paper. Obviously, they've been drafted onto the main card due to the loss of Dave Martinez versus Blake Donnelly. Obviously, lost that fight due to an injury to Dave Martinez. I think they might be rebooking that one for Feb. Is that right?
It's February or March, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I thought so. But it's in the interim we get Tim Schultz versus Liam Steven, which is a fun one. It's sort of likely to take place on the feet, you would have thought. Like Liam Steven's coming off a pretty crazy war with O'Brien, and Tim Schultz has just come back from a trip in Thailand. Looks like he's been sort of fighting some Muay Thai fights over there. I think he'll be keen to sort of show off some improvement standing up, I reckon.
Yeah, I think as much as I think he's been doing some work at Bang Tao and all that sort of stuff. But he's based primarily when he's here. He's based at Integrated. It's probably real wrestling heavy type gym. So it'd be interesting to see how that sort of all mixes together. But it's an interesting fight. Obviously, Martinez was able to exploit the grappling side of things against Tim and then find the finish. And then obviously Liam's come back and had this an absolute barn burner against O'Brien. Got the result in that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Both guys are kind of need something. They need something big to sort of propel themselves forward, especially in that division. So I think both guys need to come out with intent to get a finish and do it in a convincing way to sort of set themselves up moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. It should be a fun opening to the card. And following that, of course, we've got Tom Nolan, who's a highly touted sort of prospect here on the local scene. He's taken on the smiling assassin, Adam Cook, from City Kickboxing. So that's a fun matchup as well. Like Tom Nolan, obviously, yeah, we've got high expectations for him. And Adam Cook's coming off a big win over Tristan Murphy. And, he sort of came back from a long layoff, and he's got his eye on, the sort of lightweight title there. So, yeah, what do you make of that matchup?
Yeah, it's a really interesting fight because obviously Adam's last fight against Tristan took place at like a catchweight, I believe. So it's going to be interesting to see him back at lightweight. He has previously fought at lightweight. While he was in Australia, he fought a fair few of like the who's who lightweights at the time. So, it's going to be interesting to see him sort of fighting back at lightweight, how he's come back from the injury that he sustained in the Tristan Murphy fight. I do believe he hurt his knee. I don't remember the extent of it, if it was like completely a complete like ACL tear or MCL tear or something like that, but he definitely had an injured knee.
I think it was a partial ACL and MCL. I actually watched one of his interviews this morning, actually, so that's fresh in my mind.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it was interesting that he spoke openly about it as well. He said that he sort of had to work around it in training a little bit, but he insisted that he's good to go and he's in good shape. But like you say, it will be interesting to see how he has recovered and whether that is a hindrance for him on fight night.
Yeah, I hope so, because obviously Nolan's going to... If not, Nolan's going to target it and exploit that. I can tell you that now. He's for sure going to look to do that. That dude looks to come out there and pull people away. Obviously, stylistically, from like a fan perspective, it's an entertaining fight. It's got all the makings to be, fight of the night or a very sort of highly entertaining fight. And if you look at Nolan's performances so far in his professional run, he's just come out there and put on a show and put people away. So I guess, both guys are very dangerous. Both guys are very skilled. Both guys are reasonably, experienced in the sport. And both guys are probably keen to cement themselves in that stack division and get themselves close to a title shot. Because obviously, everyone knows that if you win that title, it's going to set you up quite nicely. So, I'm expecting fireworks to happen in this fight, but I don't see it going the distance. I feel like either guy can find a finish and capitalize, quite easily. So no matter where the fight is, but ultimately I think, Nolan's on a bit of a run. He's on a bit of a surge. He's got a lot of momentum behind him, but I think the experience and the diverse striking that Cook has is going to nullify, Nolan's approach to this fight and what he wants to do. And I honestly think that's going to prevail. I think Adam's going to be able to find the finish and find a way to shut down what Nolan wants to do and ultimately put him away. And that's not a knock on Nolan and his abilities. It's just, I feel like in this fight, Cook's been in there with like absolute killers. He's had those fights where, you got to dig deep and grind through and find out who's got the bigger heart, who can push the hardest. You look at his last fight with an injured knee, so out there to still go out there and perform against a vastly bigger dude, and get the win. I just think that's all going to come together quite nicely for him, and he's going to be able to find the victory.
You feel like there's a bit of an experience difference between the two at this stage?
I do, yeah, I think so, and especially as we were talking about the professional side of things. Obviously, Nolan had quite a run as an amateur, and had quite a good amateur run before he went pro, and kind of took his time to go pro and get as much experience as he could. But I think Cook's just been around the game a bit longer, and as a professional, he's just sort of experienced everything that you can experience. Like as a professional and even as an amateur, we haven't seen Nolan really in any trouble or face adversity or have to, adjust on the fly or dig deep. Things have gone his way. So, and that speaks volumes to his ability and his skill set that's been the case. But I just think if it comes down to having to make the adjustments mid-fight, having to dig deep, we don't really know. We haven't really seen what he's got in, inside that's going to be able to push him through those sort of, adverse situations. Whereas with Adam, we have seen that. We know that dude's not going to quit. We know he's going to push. We know he can get through anything. He's fought on cards where he's fought multiple times a night, had some absolute wars. He's fought some absolute tough dudes, that have put him through the ringer. So, I just feel like from what we can look at and the evidence we're presented right now, if it comes down to it, I think it's the experience and the tests that Adam's faced so far that are going to prevail.
Yeah, definitely, and I think the winner sort of probably goes into a little bit of a holding pattern, right, and sort of into the queue, like, because we've sort of got to wait until early next year now for Martinez versus Donnelly to sort of shake out finally, and so the winner was either they're possibly going to be faced with a choice, right, whether they want to sort of fight in the interim or whether they want to kind of wait it out and see if they can get a title shot.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and then obviously it's going to depend on what happens with Blake and Dave and how quickly that all comes together. And, because who knows, this game's so weird. We might, we're expecting that to take place February, March, probably March more likely, because I'd imagine they want to do it in the Gold Coast because, it's where Dave's based in Queensland, so they'd probably want to do it there. Wouldn't make much sense for them to fly two interstate guys to Perth even for a title fight. But, who knows? They might do that. But, yeah, there's a whole lot of factors that got to play out. There's a few other people in that division that are, I guess, relevant in some way. It just depends what happens with a few things that still have to play out. But, you got people like Josh Togo, Dan Hill still lurking. You got someone like Isaac Hardman who's talking about having an MMA fight again. Might throw a spanner in the works because, that guy just needs to show up and say that he wants to fight MMA again and, look at his resume and what he's been able to do. It's not going to be hard for that dude to put his hand up for a title fight.
That's true. He's got some, the profile as well. It would sort of make it a big event. So, yeah, he probably could push his way in there. But do you think he's serious?
Yeah, I don't know, because it just depends what's happening. I see he did sign something for his boxing management or whatever, so it could mean that maybe he's going to get back on track with boxing. Obviously, he just had a baby, but yeah, certainly if he wants to have some MMA fights to fill in some time, fuck, why not? The dude's entertaining. It'd be crazy to watch him get in there with some of the top lightweights.
Yeah, definitely. Just lost my mic there for a second, but we're all good. And is Dan Hill still lurking as well? Looks like he's been having a little go in boxing too. He's won a couple of fights over there. Yeah,
he's fighting against this week, I think, or next week. So he seems like he's going hard at the boxing for the moment. So who knows? He might just stay to pursue on that. But I'm sure if he wanted to come back to MMA, he just need to probably get a win or two, or maybe even just a win, and then he'd be back in the mix, I guess.
That's true, and yeah, you mentioned Josh Togo there as well. So that's another guy that's kind of lurking in that title picture. So it's fickle, the local scene, isn't it? So you can't really afford to sort of stack and wait for title shots, can you?
No, not at all. You got to sort of, you just got to fight, right? Like you just got to make yourself.
Do you want to say it together?
Undeniable. Just say it.
Yeah, that's our buzzword, isn't it? Yeah.
These people don't want to fucking listen. Like, so we're breaking down this card, and we lost the title fight because of injury and blah blah blah, and we've still got 2 title fights on. But you look at you just gotta put yourself in that position, right? Like you just gotta get after it, just fight and get yourself there.
Absolutely, and also on this card we've got Josh Kuhn, who's sort of a part-time sort of teammate of yours, taking on Abdallah Bieda, and that's actually another fun matchup on paper. It's sort of likely to take place standing up, you would have thought. But what do you make of that one?
Who's he fighting? Who's that guy? What's his name again? Who is he? Where is he from?
Abdallah Bieda. Yeah, also previously known as Abdallah Altagani.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Okay. Well, I forgot who he was.
What are you doing? Yeah, I did.
Guys, just a bit irrelevant for a sec. But, we should see how this fight plays out. Obviously, Josh dropping a featherweight. Abdullah's fought a featherweight a few times, fought a lightweight a few times. He's a tall, long dude, so it's got the makings to be a pretty entertaining fight. Obviously, Josh doesn't know how to have a boring fight. He's likes to entertain and get after it and knock people out. That's kind of what drives him, I guess. But obviously, he's come to freestyle and done some work. He's taken a step back since his loss to Dimps and reevaluated his approach to the game and looked to learn and grow as much as he can. It's going to be interesting to see him sort of come in there and perform again, see how he performs at featherweight, see how he responds to his first real weight cut, really. And then for Abdullah, it's going to depend on, he's seeing if he can just maintain the form that he's had recently, coming off a couple wins. I do believe his last fight, he beat Jesse Medina. He's won the featherweight and lightweight titles in demolition. So the guy's doing his own thing. Obviously, I'm joking. I know all about the guy. I follow the MMA scene in Australia quite thoroughly, and demolition's a good show to keep an eye on as well. But yeah, I just think people forget their place in this game a few times. You gotta kind of remember where you're at and kind of remember to smell the roses a bit. But yeah, it's an exciting opportunity, because it's the last card of the year. It's going to be on Fight Pass. It's going to sell out. Josh Kuhn being involved, it's going to, he's going to pack the house at the Southport Sharks. So it's going to be interesting to see how Abdullah rises to that occasion, because it's literally going to be all eyes on you in that moment more than ever, more than any of the other fights, I'd say even. So yeah, you're gonna be walking into a very hostile environment. Let's say you're gonna have like a lot of, the whole crowd's going to be against you. You're gonna have all the eyes on you. All the stuff's going to be against you. So it's going to be depend on how you rise to that and come out there and try and perform. But stylistically, you'd think that this fight's just going to be a stand-up fight. But I think Abdullah showed in his last fight he's capable of mixing it up on the ground as well, especially with someone like Medina. And we've seen him so far be able to deal with being like people trying to take him down and mix in the wrestling and put him against the cage. But with that being said, Josh has been training down at Freestyle. We're on a pretty different level here, so it's going to be interesting to see how he mixes in the stuff that he's added to his game. But at the end of the day, too, man, if he lands, you're gonna fucking know about it. The dude hits hard, I can tell you that firsthand. He's got some power, so even if it comes down to just a straight up fight on the feet, if Josh is able to get inside and pull punches out there and be able to land some leather on Abdullah's chin, I think he's going to crumble very quickly and realize like, oh, I don't want to be here. And then, it'd be interesting to see what happens. And obviously if more often than not, if we see someone who predominantly likes to strike get tagged and then they decide to shoot or mix in the grappling or the wrestling, well, then that stuff's not going well because they're stepping out of their comfort zone completely. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, obviously I'm gonna back Josh. I think Josh is going to go out there and get a finish and put him away and cement his run at the featherweight division with a massive finish and a big victory.
I think it's spot on with that assessment, really. Like, Abdullah, he's probably, like anyone who fights Josh Kuhn, have sort of got to weather that early storm, right? Josh has shown that he's incredibly dangerous in that first round, but also inside the first minute. He's often in a hurry when he comes out there. So, do you think Abdullah might actually try and take it to the ground in the first round? Just try and ride out that those first 5 minutes.
Nah, I don't see him shooting. Like I said, if he shoots, it's because he's panicking something, like he doesn't know what else to do. I feel like he's going to just try and stay long, stay on the outside, use his distance, use his reach, mix in his kicks, just kind of, just use a diverse range of striking to kind of throw Josh off and, keep him on the outside and not allow him to do any work or come on the inside and land any big shots or even his own takedowns or clinching or anything like that. But yeah, honestly, like I said, it's just gonna depend on how he manages that. Because if Josh lands, it doesn't matter if it's on the head, the body, the arm, the toe. Like, you're gonna feel it, you're gonna know about it.
Yeah, and Josh has got a bit of a puzzle to solve there, isn't he? Like you sort of mentioned, like obviously Abdullah's incredibly tall and rangy for a featherweight. So Josh is probably hasn't had that many fights. Obviously he's he trains at good camps and things like that. But he probably hasn't faced anyone quite of the the physical dimensions of Abdullah Bieda.
No, not at all. It's hard to find people to emulate that too. You're right, because a dude is so tall and long. Like obviously, you've managed it how you can, and he's had a few people to move around in this camp that are sort of, I guess, similar in that aspect. But for someone that is going to 100% emulate your opponent. Sometimes, it's hard to do that. You're not going to always get that. So, but I feel like he's more than ready, and he's got some tricks up his sleeve, and he's obviously been doing some work with some high level people, even, and he's obviously, stepped back completely and reevaluated his approach to the game. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be a crazy fight. Like, I don't see it being a boring fight. I don't see it being like a drawn out fight. I feel like, it's one of those fights where it's like it's like they're either going to finish the other person, or they're going to get finished. Like, I don't see this being a fight that's going to go the distance.
It's definitely going to be worth watching as long as it lasts. That's for sure. Obviously in the co-main event, the vacant Eternal featherweight title is on the line. Diego Pereira, obviously coming off that win over Alan Philpott. He's fighting some guy, was it Van Helsing or Van Hardon or something like that? I don't know. But Eternal featherweight title on the line. What do you make of that one? Obviously we're going to get some unbiased sort of commentary on on this fight.
Yeah, you got two guys coming in there fighting for a vacant title, so that obviously ups the ante a bit. You got Pereira, who's coming off a win over Philpott. I believe he's 8-6 in his MMA career at the moment, 2-3 in his last 5. They previously fought 5 years ago. He's fighting Justin Van Heerden, currently 10-5.
Van Heerden, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. 10-5 in his MMA career. 4-1 in his last 5. I think like I said, they fought 5 years ago. Guys they were both quite early into their MMA careers. Both have, I guess, matured as fighters and as men a little bit. So it's an interesting fight on paper. It's shaping up to be an interesting one. But obviously, I'm involved, so let me tell you how it is. Let's be honest. First off, we fought 5 years ago, so that's a while ago. Obviously, both guys were vastly different compared to 5 years ago. I'd say me more so than him. But that's gonna just stem on the different pathways that we've taken in the sport. The fact that I'm training at a different gym while he's at the same gym. That's not a knock on that or anything. Obviously, I have a lot of love for the people that are in that gym. It's my old gym. I've got a respect for the team and coaches there. But obviously, I feel like I've grown and developed a lot more than he has over the years, and especially since coming to freestyle. But yeah, I've seen a lot of interesting takes about, like, in the lead up to this fight and stuff that's been put out there. But let's call it how it is, right? I fought this guy 5 years ago. He got the better of me, got the finish, got the win. So, that's in his back pocket, and he can, he's obviously been able to hold on to that and go, okay, I got to win over this guy already. So that should give him some confidence coming into the fight, as it would. That's normal. But that's 5 years ago, and you fought a one-dimensional guy. You fought a wrestler who was coming into the sport and was still in his career. And you capitalized and showcased what a well-rounded MMA game can do to someone who's got a one-dimensional approach, and you won. So that's kind of expected. But this time round, you're fighting as much more experienced, well-rounded MMA fighter who is a lot bigger, a lot stronger, a lot faster. Like, it's a whole nother ball game. And like, things have changed significantly in a bunch of different areas. Like, I mean, back then when we fought, like, I didn't have a nutritionist. I wasn't doing any strength and conditioning. So like I've said, like, the guy that fought Diego back then, like, if I was to fight myself from 5 years ago, it wouldn't even last like 30 seconds. It'd be a wrap. Like, and that's how I gauge myself. Like, I don't look at this as, I don't look at any fight or anything like as, I need to, like, obviously you got your opponent that you got to fight and focus on, but I'm just focused on being better than the last fight that I had and being better than that version of myself. So I feel like people can expect that I'm going to come out there and show a whole new level and a completely different sort of standard of fighting than I did even in my last fight, which is arguably my best performance in the cage. I'm excited. Like, this isn't really even, I'm not even excited about getting it back and getting a win over someone I've lost to, that'd be cool. That's like a bonus, but it's more so just knowing that I'm getting to fight for that title. I'm getting to do it on a big card. I'm getting to do it with a lot of eyes on me, a lot of exposure, and, in front of a sold-out crowd in the Gold Coast at Southport Sharks, where I fought a bunch of times and I like it. It's fucking cool. So that's all very exciting, but I just want to cap my year off the right way, man. I just want to get out there, put on another big performance, get another finish, win that belt, and then, finish my year in a massive way. But obviously, I gotta focus on the man in front of me. As I've said, when Diego's on and he shows up, he can beat people and do it in a world-class way. Like he's super dangerous and experienced in the sport, and he's pretty well-rounded. I do think that he still is going to prefer to try and get his work done on the feet. I'll be very surprised if he engages in any wrestling or grappling with me, if he shoots on me or anything like that. Especially, he's like, out of all my opponents, being that we fought, but also we trained together, you know better than anyone, like that's not the place where you want to be with me. Like, I've seen him say that he expects me to come out and be very wrestling heavy, very grappling heavy, and I've even seen him say that he doesn't think that I can do that for 25 minutes. But I mean, at the end of the day, if Joe and Alex sat me down and were like, here's the game plan, man, we're going to go out there, we're going to wrestle this dude for 25 minutes, we're going to grind on him, we're going to wear him out, we're just going to, break his will, I can do that, and you can't stop that. So, even if that was the case, even if I didn't have all those other abilities and skills that I've added to my arsenal and worked diligently to improve in all areas, like, can you stop my wrestling? No. Can you stop my ability to out-grapple you? No. Is my gas tank going to slow down at any point? Absolutely not. Like, I've done the work, prepared for that. I'm more than ready to fight for 25 minutes if need be, and utilize that full time limit to get my job done. I believe I'll find a finish in the distance, but if I have to fight for 25 minutes and utilize that entire time slot to get my work done and set myself up to win the fight, like, I'll be able to do that. But in saying that, Diego's shown that if you make mistakes, like, he'll capitalize and put you away, like he did in the Philpott fight. Philpott was clearly ahead in that fight, doing some really good work. Made a mistake, Diego capitalized, put him away. So, it's not like I can sit here and go, in the wrestling and in the grappling, like, I don't think he's going to engage in that at all. But in saying that, like, if I was to make a mistake or get lackadaisy or something and, give him my back or something like that, like, I'm going to be in fucking trouble. Like, the dude's dangerous. So I can't expect that I'm just going to be fine. Like, if I make a mistake and give this guy a dominant position, like, that'd be silly of me. So I plan on, sticking to my game plans, trusting in the work and in the process that I've done to prepare for this fight, and then just go out there and do what I do and, find a finish.
Absolutely, and I actually read an interview piece with Diego that Eternal put out tonight, and he mentioned about the sort of the first fight that you guys had. And he said that he feels that, he has that sort of fight over you, and that's going to sort of be playing in the back of your mind. Which is kind of an interesting thing, right? Because it's obviously a different part of your career, and it's been 5 years, as you kind of alluded to there as well. So I guess after a loss like that early in your career, obviously that would sort of that's something that sort of dents your confidence at the time. But how long does something like that linger? Does it is it an issue when you sort of step back in the cage again? Like, how long does it go on? It's been 5 years. So how does a loss like that sort of affect you over time?
I mean, there's a couple of weeks there. Yeah, well, there's a couple of weeks there where you're obviously upset and you're pretty cut, but at the end of the day, it was my second pro fight. It was like, and that's the thing. Like, in that article that they put out, like, this guy said that he's like, he thinks it's gonna it weighs on your mind and it's gonna make this big impact because you were preparing for a fight for months and you were thinking about this one moment and then it didn't go your way. But that's not the case. I fought you on 2 weeks' notice after your opponent pulled out after my pro debut. So, like, I wasn't sitting there thinking about you for weeks going, your opponent pulled out. I come off a win in my first pro fight and was like, all right, cool, I'll jump in, as I've done numerous times. So, I got in there, had a crack, didn't go my way, but I was in shape. I just fought. come off. I didn't even get touched in my fight that I come out of with a win. So, you know, I was in shape. I was ready. I was feeling good. So I didn't walk out of that fight and go, man, will that and feel any regret. I was like, I made some mistakes. Let's reevaluate what we did and let's work on that moving forward. And then we just press forward. I didn't, for a couple of weeks, obviously it stings and you're pretty cut up by it, but I didn't dwell on it moving forward throughout my career and go, oh man, and hate myself, because it wasn't like I went in there compromised or underprepared or anything like that. I was was in a good spot. I had a crack, didn't work out. The only fight that I have on my record where it's a loss that stings me, and even to this day, it just stings me, and the only one that I would want to get back, that I actually was I need to get back, is the Rod Costa fight, because I know that it's on me that I lost that fight. I can look at that fight and go, okay, here's where I went wrong. I didn't do this. I strayed off the pathway here. I kind of, it's on me that the fight resulted in the way that it did. Whereas with the Diego fight, you look at that fight, you watch it back, it's towards the end of the first round where I got clipped and the fight ended. But up until that point, it's a pretty competitive fight, pretty back and forth. We were both kind of giving each other hurdles to sort of deal with, and it wasn't a fight where I was kind of even look at and go, oh, I'm not happy with it at all. There was still plenty of good things to look at even back then and go, okay, this was working, this was working well, this is something I can utilize. And then I got clipped, got caught, got put away. That happens, but it's vastly different when I compare those two, because I sort of look at the fight with Diego, and that was just, he capitalized. It was his night. The fight with Rod, I'm like, obviously he won, he got the victory and got the win, but I'm like, it's on me. And just I know if that's one fight where it's I know if I just show up, stick to the plan, do what I do, and just be me, it doesn't go that way ever again. Ever. We could fight 100 times. That's the one time where that fight turns out that way. So that, so when he's saying that, a fight from 5 years ago weighs on my mind, dude, honestly, it really doesn't. I've had, I think, let's look at it. From 5 years ago, I think I've had, I've gone 9-4, 9-3 since that fight. So that's the amount of fights I've had since then. Man, I've had so much happen in between these two fights. That's the last thing I'm thinking about, man. I'm still trying to process things from this year that I'm haven't even given myself time to sit down and smell the roses for. So yeah, obviously you look at the mistakes you make in fights and you capitalize on the things you did well, and you assess it all together, and then you go, okay, what do we need to do moving forward? So, yeah, if anything, I'm thankful when I look back at all my fights, even the Costa fight, man. I look at that fight, even though I'm dirty that I lost that fight and it's one that I'd want to get back, it's still thankful for that fight, because it's led me to the point I'm at now and shaped where I'm at now, because I obviously lost that fight, went back to work and was all right, we need to fix this, we need to do this. And then from fight to fight this year, I've done the same thing. Even though I've won all the fights, I've still done that. I've gone, okay, well, we need to do this better. We need to improve on this one aspect here. And then I go to the next fight, and then I've got, okay, there's something else that I need to pick out and go, okay, fix this, improve on that, and then and so on and so forth. So I'm thankful for all my fights, and even that first fight with Diego, I'm thankful that fight happened. I'm thankful that that experience is in my back pocket, so that I know where I'm at now and moving forward. I've experienced all those things, and I can, guide myself through this game with a bit more knowledge, a bit more patience, a bit more experience, and kind of get the results I'm getting.
Yeah, that's a brilliant mindset, actually, for that. That's that's sort of high level thinking, I guess, just sort of recognizing that step on your journey, you're sort of exactly where you need to be right now, and those things are sort of part of part of the journey to get to where you are. That's an interesting little that the first Diego fight was on short notice. I didn't know that myself, actually. So that's an interesting little Yeah, little tidbit there.
Like, yeah, that's something. And also, like, I got clipped, and I won't lie, he clipped me behind the ear and my legs just went limp and I went down, but I wasn't unconscious. If you watch it, like, if people haven't watched the fight, go and watch it. You'll see that I sit up straight away and talk to the ref and go, oh, yep. You know, I say to Pete, I'm like, yep, that's a good stoppage, because, like, my legs went. If he'd have followed up, I'm thankful Diego didn't follow up with any shots in that fight, because he followed up with some shots. For sure, I wasn't intelligently defending myself, and then I copped some unnecessary damage. So, yeah, that's sort of another thing that's kind of like, he's under this impression that he knocked me out unconscious and I was completely out cold, which I wasn't, but, you know, it's neither here nor there. It just adds to the storyline, I guess, and, you know, gives him that extra bit of confidence. And that's what I want. I want the best prepared, most confident, most dangerous Diego Pereira in there with me. I've said it all year. I want high stakes, high reward prize fighting. That's what we're about. You know, and I think that he's got a lot more pressure on him than I do, because this is his second crack at the Eternal title. He's very lucky to be in this position in the first place. Like, let's call it how it is. You're 2-3 in your last 5. You're coming off a win over Alan Philpott. Before that, you're coming off 2 losses. Like, I mean, you should be very thankful that you're in this position. So I feel like he's got a lot of pressure on him. You know, he's fought for this belt before and come up short. So I feel like, you know, as much as he's talking about, like, he's trying to, you know, he was saying, like, this fight's got to be playing on my brain, and the result of the first fight, well, surely that's playing on your brain if we want to, like, if that's something, if we're going to go down that, like, then your first fight for the title, that's got to play in your brain that it didn't go your way. You know, you didn't rise to the occasion, I guess. And like I've said, you know, and this isn't even like a knock on him or anything, but it's pretty obvious that, even if you don't know him, and I do know him and know him quite well, but he's someone that struggles mentally with this sport. He has to get himself in the right mindset, the right mind frame. And even in these fights, like, it's usually something's got to happen to sort of trigger him and get him back to neutral, so he can go out there and do his thing. And, you know, coming in against me and having to deal with that as extra factors, that's not going to be a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, he won the first fight, right? So yeah, he's got the pressures on him to sort of repeat the dose if it was so easy the first time around. So you know, yeah, it's I guess he's in a tricky spot as well. It's a high stakes fight for both of you guys, and yeah, it's gonna be exciting to watch. You know, it's like I probably wouldn't class myself as a neutral in this one, but for the fans to sort of sit back and watch the fight, like, there's nothing better than a title fight and the 2 guys that are sort of at the peak of their powers. So yeah, it should be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that we're in the co-main event side. Like, I'm not happy that we're only, like, we're there because the fight fell out, but I'm happy to be fighting in the co-main event and just know that I'm going to be in a spot where it's like all eyes are on you and you got to perform. I like that. I thrive off that.
You kind of do, don't you? You sort of, you enjoy sort of being under the bright lights, and, you know, does that pressure does it spur you on? Does it help you kind of just, like, dial in and focus on the task at hand? Like, what is it about that sort of, you know, the high stakes, the big fights that really sort of gets you going?
I think I know that it's an opportunity to perform with a lot of eyeballs on you, and you've got all those contributing factors. Like, you got people, you know, there's people doubting you. You go out there, there's people in the crowd that are maybe booing you, or, you're kind of, all of those factors and all the stuff in the lead up, you know, the messages you get from people, the stuff you see on social media, it all compounds together and kind of, like, just adds to it, because you know it's at stake. You know the gravity of the fight that you're about to sort of step in for. But I love the whole fucking process. Like, even when I'm cutting weight and I'm sitting in that sauna and, you know, it's like you're cutting weight or whatever, like, I'm just sitting there just soaking it all in, because I know that I'm that much closer to getting in there and performing and doing what I get to do. And, like, the bigger the occasion, the bigger the stakes, the bigger the danger, the better I'm going to perform, and the calmer I'm going to be in there, because I'm going to feel like I'm, you know, this is where I need to be. I'm right at home. Like, I can't imagine being in a position where I walk out there and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling excited or amped or whatever, like, or not loving every single part of this or enjoying every single second that I'm involved in this sort of process. That'd be super weird. I think the day that happens, where I'm not feeling how I feel now, and approaching things how I am now, and loving every second of the sport, that'll be the day where I'll fucking hang my gloves up for sure.
Yeah, that's it. And you're the type, and we'll get off this. We've got to get onto the onto the rest of the show, of course. But are you the type of fighter that needs a bit of a chip on your shoulder? There, you sort of talked about the messages that you get, sort of people doubting you. Obviously, you're in pretty much every fight, you're the betting underdog, right? Does that sort of do you kind of need that on the shoulder?
Oh, I don't need it, but I like it. It's cool knowing that I'm gonna go out there and prove some doubters wrong. People are going to bet on me and make some money. I love it. It's being an underdog and being sort of counted out is always a cool thing, and to then go out there and do what you do and, get the result and shut everyone up and just capitalize on it all. And it makes that much better. But do I need it? Is it gonna? If I was I'm pretty sure I'm the favorite going into this one. I think I'll be the betting favorite going into this one. But is that gonna change the fight for me, or how I perform, or what I do? No, I'm still gonna do the same thing.
So you're the betting favorite this time around. That's got to be a first, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe I am. I think from what I've seen, I think I'll be the betting favorite, and then
right.
So, but to be honest, like, looking at it from that point of view, if I was like an odds maker or something like that, as it fucking should be, like, I'm 3-0 this year so far with 3 finishes. Like, it makes sense.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, you got the runs on the board this year, but it doesn't look like you're on the Neds app yet. I'm just checking on the on the app there, but they sort of put it up at the last minute, don't they? On the Eternal fights. So it'll be interesting. We'll see. We'll see what it is. I'll certainly send it to you if you're the betting underdog.
If I am, I'm not going to be surprised. But from what I've seen so far, I think I'll be the favourite. But if I'm not, good. If I'm not the favourite, make sure I'm not the favourite by a lot.
Yeah, it's good for us too. We all make some money every time we get in there and beat another sort of highly touted favourite. So hopefully you are the underdog.
Hopefully.
All right, now we've got a main event to get to as well. Obviously, John Martin Fraser, the Eternal middleweight champion, is defending his title in a rematch. He took on Matt at Eternal 69 and won a close decision. He obviously took the fight on short notice. It was at a catch weight at, I think, about 90 kegs or thereabouts. And so he got the decision. I know Matt's team was a bit upset about the decision, but it kind of looked all right to me. I was pretty comfortable with it, but it was a close fight. So what do you make of the rematch back at middleweight with the title on the line?
Yeah, I thought the decision in the first fight was fine. But yeah, I'm excited. Both guys have had a full camp to prepare. Both guys are going to be coming in the best shape, the most motivated, with a feel for each other because they fought once already for a title. So yeah, it's got the makings to be a crazy fight. And obviously that first fight was closer. It was close. But yeah, there's obviously a few factors that were coming into that fight. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing these two guys get in there. I'm expecting fireworks. I think both guys want to showcase a better version of themselves than they got to the first time round. And I think both guys kind of want to one up each other in that sense as well. Because obviously for Myers, he was preparing for like a Muay Thai fighter with zero grappling, and then got in there and fought a guy who's a bit bigger, a bit heavier, who decided to take him to an all grappling sort of stanza, I guess, for the majority of the fight. And then for Fraser, come in short notice, bit out of shape, had to sort of switch up his game plan a bit. Obviously, he likes to usually sort of get his stuff done on the feet. So I think for him, he wants to be able to showcase that this time around and, put some hands on Matt and hurt him and put him away in that capacity. But I feel like both guys are going to be ready for each other, ready to, for the fight to take place in every sort of avenue. I feel like Myers is going to be a bit more primed and ready to deal with the takedowns and the grappling side of things this time around. And obviously, being that it's at middleweight this time around, so I feel like both guys are going to be in a bit better shape, a bit more, I guess, prepared to fight each other for the duration of the fight, however long it's going to go for, potentially 25 minutes. But and if the first fight's anything to go off, it probably, it might potentially go 25 minutes. And we'll be looking for a judge's decision and hoping that, we'll probably be hoping that we get to see these dudes fight again. Who knows? But ultimately, I feel like Frazier's got a few more avenues that he can utilize to get the victory. Myers, obviously, I like that dude. He's shown he's pretty well-rounded and he's pretty dangerous. But I feel like his path to victory is a lot more limited than Frazier's, because I feel like, John Martin can get it done on the feet. He's shown that he can out-grapple him, out-wrestle him, at least in the first fight. Whereas for Myers, I feel like his path to victory lies solely on the feet. I feel like he's got to keep it there, land some big shots, capitalize on if he gets, Frazier to back up, get towards the fence, and kind of, look to land those big damaging punches in that capacity. But other than that, I feel like if we see Frazier trying to, wrestle again, mix it up, add those takedowns, the grappling, and sort of those tools into this fight again, I feel like that's what's going to throw Matt off again, and lead him to sort of be sort of stuck and kind of pausing and not really sure how to approach the fight, and has to make too many adjustments. Because if you're worrying about getting taken down and held down for 10 minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes, then you're going to be a lot more open on the feet. And even if you're sort of diligent and, defensively sound on the feet, it's going to open you up to get taken down again. Whereas for Frazier, he's just got to worry about what's happening on the feet.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a fair assessment, and we know in the first fight, like Matt Myers has obviously traditionally campaigned at welterweight, and he was stepping up to middleweight for the first time ahead of that fight, and obviously John Martin Frazier's come in at 90 kilos, so they've sort of stepped up another 5 or 6 kilos, to put the fight on. We saw that Matt really got stuck on the bottom. And really sort of had a lot of trouble trying to get up from the bottom, and he got stuck on his back for a lot of the fight. Like, how much of that do you think was size, and how much of that do you think was actually sort of I guess a bit of a discrepancy in terms of wrestling and grappling skills?
I think the size really factored in a little bit, but I think it's more so just the ability, because look at some of the people that Frazier trains with, and you got someone. I'd imagine if he's trying to hold someone down like Dave Martinez, he's got his work cut out for him. So if he's in that sort of situation, then he's got to do some hard work to keep that man on his back, even though he's a bigger guy. So I think it's more so the ability in that area than it is the size. But I think that's going to play out again this fight. We're going to be more so have the ability to see how it sort of plays out, because obviously Frazier's going to be a lot leaner. He's in shape for a fight, a middleweight title fight. So he's not going to, even rehydrated and stuff like that, he's not going to be as heavy as he was probably. And it's going to be interesting to see how that factors in. But is he going to be faster on the feet? Is he going to be, hitting a lot harder for a lot longer? Like, there's all these factors that play in when you compare someone who's come in at short notice to when they're in shape. And for Myers too, a full camp. Like, we don't know a full camp preparing for someone like Frazier with his team. We don't know. He could come out there and be more than equipped for whatever's thrown his way and go out there and shine. But I feel like based on the fights we've seen from Frazier so far, his resume currently, the fact that he is the current champ, I feel like I can't pick against him in this one, so I got to go with him, and I feel like he's going to get the work done.
Yeah, I think the that you mentioned there, why this fight is so intriguing is because it was so close the first time around, and you know, how does the size, you know, full camps, all that sort of stuff, how does that sort of affect the you know, the outcome of the fight? So I guess we'll find out this weekend, won't we? And it's gonna, once again, it's gonna be a good watch. Now we've got a couple other things to cover off, of course. Some big news over in the PFL. Rob Wilkinson of Tassie has won the PFL tournament. He's defeated Amari Akhmedov with a round 2 doctor stoppage, or was it the end of the second round? They stopped it because of a cut, but in reality, it was an ass whooping up to that point, wasn't it? That's probably the only, you know, the fairest way to assess it, really. And you know, he gets that that $1 million novelty check for winning the PFL tournament. So yeah, what did you make of Rob's performance and PFL tournament win?
Yeah, obviously number 1, number 2 seed in the tournament coming up against each other. Yeah, Rob was able to just go out there and do his thing. He's you know, a lot bigger than Akhmedov. Was able to utilize his time on the feet and do the damage when it was presented to him. Stuffed all the takedowns, which obviously was pretty clear from the start that that's what Akhmedov was trying to do and trying to sort of utilize. Obviously, you know, he's got some power in his hands in his own right, but I don't think that being in that, it's a light heavyweight and Wilkinson's not cutting a shit ton of weight like he was to middleweight and compromising himself in that way. I feel like, you know, that's why he was able to wear those shots a bit that Akhmedov did throw his way, and kind of just walk through it and deal with it and just keep the pace that he set and, you know, put him away. But in saying that, Akhmedov is obviously tough, man, because, you know, there's a few times where I thought that fight could have been stopped, but he was able to dig deep and, you know, keep it going and keep himself just in the fight, and then obviously ultimately a stop for a cut. But I'm thankful that they did that because it was a pretty nasty cut from a knee. And if he come out for a third round with that cut, it was only going to get worse because they touched it up in between rounds, in between the first and the second. Come out for the second round, and it wasn't long before his face was drenched in blood again. So, and, you know, his vision was compromised and stuff like that. So do I think that if it was somewhere else and not in New York, they would have let him come out for a third round 100%? But like I said, that wouldn't have been good. So I feel like that played into Rob's favor a bit, being that it was at Madison Square Garden in New York. I'm not mad at that, but it's like we said from the start, it just goes out there, he's just going to bash people and he's just going to run through everyone until he gets it done, and that's what he did.
He did, yeah. And I feel like we pretty much called it, didn't we? We kind of said from the start that this guy's going to be a problem in this PFL light heavyweight division, and so it proved. And it was kind of interesting that he said sort of post-fight, he was just, you know, they said, oh, how do you feel? You've won $1 million, all this sort of stuff. And he said, you know what, it's really this belt. You know, they had this belt on his shoulder. He said, that's what means more to me than the money, which was really an interesting sort of take from him. But, yeah, and we were kind of talking about it at the time. Like, I don't know how much they actually end up with out of $1 million at the end of it. Yeah, how much do you reckon he actually takes home from that $1 million novelty check?
Yeah, it'd be hard to imagine that he keeps a fair chunk of that, because, like, even though it's $1 million US, so it's like, well, 1.5, 1.6 Australian, something like that. You got to factor in, you got to probably pay tax over there, you got to pay tax here, you got to pay your manager, you got to pay, I imagine that he's paying his management, you're paying coaches, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd hope that he keeps like a majority of the money. That'd be the ultimate sort of thing that I hope happens. But yeah, I dare say a fair chunk of it gets taken. So when we're seeing them get this $1 million prize and that check and that, you know, I think people need to keep in mind that they're probably not getting all of that $1 million. Yeah. So I do think outside of the $1 million prize, they still get show money and win money as well. I think that is still a thing. So obviously, you know, he's getting sort of a decent amount of like $1 million plus a little bit more, but yeah, it's just going to depend on how much gets taken away for all those other things.
Yeah, they still have negotiated purses like any other promotion. So it's not like they're all just all fighters are fighting for all the chocolates at the end of it. That'd be pretty wild, wouldn't it? But yeah, they do have their show and win money depending on what their managers have negotiated for them in their contracts, of course. But I guess at the end of it all is that sort of $1 million carrot. And it's payday, right? Like most MMA fighters are fighting for scraps. Rob Wilkinson was fighting over in Hex not that long ago, and probably wasn't getting paid a hell of a lot. Just like anyone sort of fighting on the local scene. So it's still a still going to be a healthy payday, whatever he takes home, and it's well earned. I think it's a bit of a tough slog that PFL tournament. Was it four or five fights in 8 months? I think the season runs for. So that they make him work for it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a good payday. It's obviously good result for him. He's a world champion, and it sets him up quite nicely moving forward. Obviously. He's a big problem in that division, so he can for sure win multiple PFL titles if he chooses to do so.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, well done to Rob Wilkinson, and of course we've got Tai Tuivasa in action this weekend. UFC Fight Night, Thompson versus Holland. He's taking on Sergey Pavlovich, which is kind of an interesting matchup for him. Obviously, Tai's coming off the loss to Cyril Gane. Pavlovich is on a bit of a tear. He's won 4 in a row since a loss to Alistair Overeem. His last win was over Derek Lewis in July, so he's a bit of a banger. He's 4-1 in the UFC, so yeah, it's going to be a fun fight to watch, and it's a big test for Tai Tuivasa to sort of to try and beat a guy who's 16-1 and sort of stay relevant in that title picture.
Yeah, he needs a win so he can bounce back and sort of stay back in title contention. Yeah, Sergey's dangerous. He'll if he touches you, he'll knock you the fuck out, like as you expect at heavyweight. But he's got some skills. So I don't see this fight going the distance. I feel like in true Bam Bam fashion, he's either gonna knock Sergey out or get knocked out. I don't see it going any other way. So yeah, I expect we're going to see him go out there, throw the heavies, get a big KO victory, do a shoey, and potentially call out John Jones. I don't know. That'd be the move that I'd do.
Yeah. Who knows? Hopefully he gets it done and stays in that title mix. But yeah, it's going to be it's a great matchup on paper. So yeah, should be a fun one. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on while we're here, Michael Zarafa was in action on the weekend as well. He fought Danilo Criati. And the reason that's significant is because obviously, the talk is out there that Michael Zarafa, his team has verbally agreed to fight with Triple G for March next year.
Yeah.
And so obviously he wanted to stay busy, right? He hasn't fought since the Isaac Hardman fight. So he's taken this fight with Danilo Criati, and it would seem a risk, right? He's got that sort of what's presumably a bit of a red panty night there with Triple G. That would be a huge fight for Australian, like a huge name to bring out here for Australian boxing, and and he's got the job done by unanimous decision. But the discussion has been that the performance was a little bit lackluster. Like, it was a competitive fight with Criati. Zarafa seemed to maybe sort of stuck in second gear, and he kind of said after the fight himself that he didn't sort of study any tape. He'd sort of underestimated Criati, which seems a bit interesting when he had so much to fight for, just in sort of getting over this hurdle on his way to a fight with Triple G. And some of the commentators are saying, this could have cost him tens of thousands of dollars, by not sort of putting on a dominant performance and really kind of I guess laying down a marker there. So yeah, I don't know. Did you see Zarafa's fight, and what do you make of the whole sort of Criati Triple G Zarafa situation?
Yeah, it's weird that he took that fight when they were sort of putting that out there, but yeah, it did seem like he was just sort of coasting the whole fight and kind of just doing enough to sort of stay ahead. Obviously, I think I'm for sure he won, but yeah, he seemed like he was for sure coasting and wasn't sort of fighting up to the usual standard that you could expect from him. I guess that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, and also to be fair, Creati was is pretty awkward. He's got a bit of an awkward style. He's got sort of long arms, and he sort of he kind of kept his distance. And he's probably a guy that's not easy to look good against. In fairness to Michael Zarafa, but probably a bit more urgency was probably required in that sort of scenario, given that a Triple G fight beckons really.
Yeah, 100%. Especially, but if you're going to make the decision to fight someone in the interim, you kind of want to come out there and put them away violently so that you could really up the ante for a fight with someone like Triple G. I mean, that's at least what I would think or how I'd approach it. But it's weird that he, said that he didn't watch any tape or really prepare and take this guy too seriously.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously, Triple G would be a huge coup for Australian boxing to get him over here on Australian soil. So, how do you reckon Michael Zarafa would fare? Obviously, Triple G's on the wrong side of 40 now, but he's still a world-class fighter. So, how would Zarafa stack up?
I don't know. It's hard for me to pick against Triple G unless he's fighting someone like Canelo. I think Triple G would give it his best red hot crack, being that he is, like you said, a bit older now and on the way out, I suppose. But I think Zarafa could still, get the job done. But it's a tough task. It's a hard thing to do against someone like Triple G. Do I think he can do it? Yeah. Do I think he will do it? No.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. But, speaking of giving it a red-hot crack, of course, we're going to be giving it a red-hot crack next week, episode 35 of Fight Talk Down Under. That is, of course, if we can extract Lockjaw from the pub after his fight. He could still be there celebrating or commiserating, probably celebrating. If we can, of course, we're going to be recapping all the happenings of Eternal 72. I'm sure there's going to be plenty to unpack there. We'll probably talk about Tuivasa's fight. We'll get to some fan questions and all that sort of usual fun and frivolity. But until then, let us know if you have any fan questions. The details are below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio version, it's at Dan Meehan MMA on Twitter or at Lockjaw MMA on Instagram, and of course see our Instagram page at Fight Talk Down Under, of course like and subscribe. YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Fight News Australia, and iHeartRadio. Lockjaw, what do you want to take us off with before Friday?
I'll take you off with a shout out for my teammate Amina Hedaya. She's back in action this weekend. Wollongong Wars is taking place down here on Sunday. She's back in action 2 weeks after she just fought again. She's easily the most active fighter in Australian MMA. She's an absolute problem, an absolute beast, and this will be her second pro fight. It's her 8th or 9th fight this year, so it's fucking insane. But she's an absolute beast. She's on a tear. No signs of slowing down. So I'm sure there'll be a stream, and I'll put all those details out there. So if people want to get on board, watch this girl fight, because pretty soon you're gonna have to fork out for that UFC Fight Pass subscription and that UFC pay-per-view fee, because she's gonna be fighting in the world stage sooner rather than later. I can tell you that now.
I gotta watch it. You never know what might stop you. Here I am.